All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Oregairu, Season 2, Episode 3. Hachiman's fake confession. That happened.
That happened and it led to some really good, good, awkward, but like layered conversation with Hina.
Yes.
And I was there for that.
Yep, that was fantastic. I loved it. And also Yui's reaction and response and the way she confronted Hachiman about it. That was wonderful. Love it.
Yeah.
It was painful, but it's movement.
Yeah, and it's something where Yui is in some ways having more and more reason as to why she might not actually confess to him.
Yep, because that was a moment that could have been if not for what happened. So yeah. Okay. But, what happens after that?
There we go. Yeah. The characters kind of getting to maintain their normalcy, at least.
That status quo continues. Yeah,
on Hayama's side of things with his clique. So that's good for them. That is what most of them actually wanted.
Right.
So that's pretty good there. Hachiman, though, it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the members of the service club.
Yes.
Because in some ways, it was a little bit of a surprise. And something that the group of them, at least the three of them, they were kind of on it.
Yeah, strong feelings on the matter.
Exactly. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. All right, guys, we got ourselves a doozy of a painful episode.
Yeah, that, like, as far as...
Very frustrating and very well done. All right, Komachi tried.
Yep, she did.
It could have all been resolved in some ways right here by him just kind of saying, it is a problem, but I just don't want to talk about it. But no...
Because he won't even admit to himself that it's a problem.
And he hates that superficiality part of himself, and he's falling into it, which means, oh no,
oh man,
oh no,
I can't
Hachiman.
remember the last time that I was so tense over an episode of an anime where nothing happened. Like
I love that. Yes,
because now, granted, something did happen, with Haruno and all that stuff, later. But for the vast majority of this episode, nothing was happening. A lot of stuff could have been happening, but because of Hachiman's stubbornness and decisions and things like that, he was making sure that absolutely nothing was happening. Within him.
Yeah.
But there was a whole lot of stuff happening on the outside.
And this is the part where the episode basically goes from good to great, is that for Hachiman here, he is in a unique setup. He is in a way where what he actually did does
there's consequences.
Well, not just that. How does he feel about what he did there?
Oh, sure.
He doesn't necessarily like it. There's got to be something about it that is eating at him because he thought back to it at the moment when Komachi said, "Is everything okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, everything's fine. Nothing happened." And then she zeroes in on it. Does it have something to do with Yukino and Yui? And he hesitates. So you're not that subtle, buddy.
Right.
In fact, it's kind of because of the amount of energy that you radiate out at times that people don't approach you or do these kinds of things and stuff like that. And it's understandable. It's not like he's specifically trying to invite people into his social life and what have you.
And he has very, very strong reasons within himself of why he is so stubborn in this regard, right? Why he's so closed off, why he refuses to let other people in, even if it's to tell them that they can't come in, because the biggest times that he has opened up emotionally in the past, he's gotten burned for it. And in fact, we end up later in the episode getting a revisit with that situation.
With the person that he very, very much fixates still on as being responsible for a lot of that. And it is one of those situations where it's unfortunate that it happened really in such a young kind of stage where I blame the girl. Well, right, I don't blame the girl like at all. Like the junior high girl, she really doesn't have any more maturity than really Hachiman does necessarily at the time to be able to handle that kind of stuff in general.
Right. If anything, I blame her more now.
Yeah, if
for
anything, maybe.
The way she's doing things in that scene than anything that happened back then.
Yeah, but like rarely are people so malevolent. It's just that there's lack of care.
Yeah,
really,
it's callous.
It's what is it, apathy? Kind of a thing to it, where you're kind of like, yeah, this is a person in front of me, but I'm not like actively trying to make sure that I give them a good experience with me, and through actually understanding the way that they move and operate. That's too much effort. Well, and therefore, I'm going to say things that are callous and ended up being really painful.
It's basically just a time capsule of what's happening right now with Hachiman and Yui. Right?
Kinda, yeah.
Because like if you think, and this is one of the reasons that I love it so much, because Hachiman can decide to keep things going the way things are, right? And that's why it frustrates Yukino so much. That's why it frustrates Komachi and things like that. But to not change, that is a decision. Right?
Yeah, he can continue to do that. There are consequences. One of the things that's rather fascinating about that is just looking at the members of the service club and going, whoa, actually, a lot of them have changed. In fact, I would say all three of them have changed. But you look at the ways in which some of them have changed, and Yui is like rocket ship, like far ahead of both of them. And then Yukino is starting to potentially kind of stagnate a little bit as well due to this conflict. But I would say in a lot of ways,
she's doing good.
She's doing pretty well. And Hachiman was doing pretty well too. Like I would say there was a couple stages where you could see Hachiman like, whoa, he was getting by, but was he fully changing?
Yeah, and now we see that basically
we'll maybe get to see and find out if he was.
Right, and maybe he was starting to change, who knows, but there was that point where he basically realized, hold on, this is scary and unfamiliar, and he was the dog that went back to its own vomit, the alley cat that, wants to eat rotted fruit, like, because that's what I'm comfortable with, right? Because of reasons and things like that, that's the situation that I'm in, and I won't let anyone pull me out of this. I won't even let myself pull me out of this.
Yeah. It is interesting, though, given that there's his desire to help these members of the friend group that he's loosely connected to through mostly Yui and then a little bit by Hayama, having them stay the same, and then being something where he kind of eventually understood that was what Hina wanted,
right?
But very, very kind of quickly understanding that was what Hayama wanted too. Him helping them there, I'm rather curious to see if it ends up being a thing of where we find out that he was doing this entirely as a reflex because that's what he would want as well, as for things like that to stay the same.
I could see that because he definitely does tend to project his own worries, fears, desires out onto people. I feel like.
I wasn't going at it that way though. I was meaning more that if you think about it in I'm going back to the thing that's familiar and stuff like that. Usually there's not that much thought about it. It's a reflex, like you said. But I feel like for this one, the fact that it resulted in such a visceral response from Yukino and Yui, I think that's maybe the part that's making him uneasy and stuff right now. Was that maybe he realized, oh, wait, they didn't like that.
It's sort of the thing of they are demanding change of me, and because of that, that's making me fight harder to not change.
Yeah,
because right now he is not in the it's just a habit kind of a thing. This is conscious, like stalwart, like defending of
right. But I think the decision in the previous episode was essentially reflex. Like it wasn't necessarily something that was like, oh, I'm going to do this because I'm projecting out the thoughts of these specific things onto these people. And then once he did it, he's like, okay, mission success. Another job complete. Turns around and they're looking at him like, you did it again, dude. Like, why won't you? Yeah. Right. And so Yukino's, of course, the one that gave the most immediate kind of upset aspect of it there.
Right.
But then Yui eventually bringing that out when they have their little bit of conversation there. So I just love that Komachi, being the one that's closest to him, has the first thing of, I can tell when something's wrong. But that means that something is changing a little bit in Hachiman, because it wouldn't have bothered him before.
Right. Yeah. It's the idea that, If the alley cat eats the food out of the dumpster because that's what it has to do, that is one way that the alley cat is, right?
It's going to survive.
It's going to survive.
Yep.
But if the alley cat turns into, no, I will choose to eat the food out of the dumpster, that is a change that happens in the alley cat, right?
Yeah.
And so, and yet, like you were saying, the fact that Komachi, like, is the first one to speak up, I love it, because the scenes
the
that
easiest avenue for him to
exactly. And a lot of the scenes that happened in this episode, with the main exception being the Haruno one, were kind of repeats. Like it's the people on the outside, the people that know Hachiman, again querying and being like, sort of poking a bit and being like, hey, what's going on, going on, and him giving the same response, putting down that iron wall, right? And if Komachi was the only one who had gone up to him and been like, hey bro, what's going on, that could be seen as, oh, it's kind of just a casual thing or whatever, right? My family is close to me. They understand me pretty well. They're able to see when something's up, right? But when, like, pretty much everyone starts to do that, it's like, that's when like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the problem's within me.
It's, well, one way you can see it, how there's the saying, like with trying to, like, lose weight or put on muscle or things like that. It's like your family notices, you notice in this amount of time, your family notices in this amount of time, and then your friends notice in this amount of time. Yeah. Like, it's a cliche thing and whatnot, but that's a saying about change, right? And Hachiman right now is at the point where everyone is noticing the change.
So it's not normal for you, dude.
Yeah.
In fact, in some ways, they're probably a little bit worried because it's not normal. I loved the way when Sai kind of came up to him to talk, and Hachiman responded with just like, morning. And it was just like, oh, yeah, huh, wow, that was
odd.
Very odd.
Right.
It was almost robotic here.
Yeah.
And I love that this imitates his behavior in other areas as well. I loved the fact that he chose what I believe is tea versus coffee here. And yet it was reflex for him to go and grab the coffee here, which is probably just the kind of thing of where he's a guy that doesn't have great mental health in general. So I, at that time as a kid, would turn to caffeine as like hey, this will help me blend in more in social circumstance so I don't spend that mental energy that I'm exhausting in my own prison in here.
Hype you up physically,
just make it, Yeah, just it makes it easier for you to deal with people just in general.
Okay.
And yet he's like, no, I'm going to choose the thing that serves probably the same purpose, but I don't like it as much. I don't think this is necessarily him punishing himself, but I thought it was rather apropos that once he tastes it, he kind of goes, ugh, bitter. Like it's a, okay, Hachiman, okay.
Yeah, change.
Yeah, exactly. He's not acting normal. And then him stalling to go to the service club for like what?
4:30.
Like 30 minutes, I'd say.
I think easily 30 minutes.
Might even be an hour.
Might even be an hour.
Like depending on when the Japanese school thing ends and stuff.
Classes end and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, in the US it's 3:30.
Right.
So
and when he goes up to the club room and he's outside it, Yukino and Yui have already basically they accepted and moved on from the fact that, okay, I guess he's no-showing, and they're talking about crepes
stuff that has nothing to do with the service club.
Nothing to do with the service club, nothing to do with him.
Yep.
And then he comes in and, well, what do you know? Everything changes.
Everything stops.
Yeah.
Oh, you decided to show up. How does she say it exactly? Like the way Yukino says it, it's so like curt and like, I am judging you. It was kind of amazing because I really love sometimes when Yukino ends up having this like almost a bit too holier than thou kind of attitude.
Yep.
And yet the way she says it shows no like, so you came. Yeah, it's so short.
Yeah.
Just like
Yep.
God, I would be so frustrated with a Yukino person as a friend because every once in a while they'd say two words that would just occupy my head for like 12 hours. And I'd be like, why did you have to say it that way? And they're like, because it's effective, damn it. And I'm like,
less is more. Well, and what I love about this is that this is actually kind of showing how Yukino is in some ways, in this instance, not changing. She's sticking to her old guns, right? Of I will be the paladin. I will be the one that laser focused targets and basically doesn't let up, right? Yui is actually kind of regressing because she's basically doing the thing of I'm going to pretend everything's fine. I'm going to adjust myself to the emotional state of what I think other people want, right? She hasn't done that really in a long ass time, right?
Right.
But
She hasn't needed to.
She hasn't needed to.
In a lot of
Hachiman
ways,
was the one who helped her get out of that. But now, Hachiman wants things to stay the same, so I guess I'll try and pretend that things are the same. Like, oh man.
It's so funny because one of the things that's really helpful when you're growing up is to remain present. And one of the things that is rather, I would say, important about remaining present means that worry and just general, I would say, shame and regret end up becoming lessened because those are things that involve looking at either the past or the future. They're, respectively. But in this case here, this is the equivalent of when you are trying to pretend that you're present by controlling the environment in some ways. So all of them are dealing with the fact that they're not okay with the present. They don't like the way things are. So they're then starting to extend their hands out and they're bumping into each other.
To try and influence things.
To try and influence things in the environment so it's shaped in a way that they like.
Right.
Now the thing is that strong personalities, in this case, win out over just less strong personalities.
Yep.
And Yui, unfortunately, of these three, is caught between two very stubborn
Rock in a hard place,
personalities
Yep.
who are actually quite strong in their own ways. While you might say that each of them have their own lack of strengths with regards to healthiness.
Oh, yeah, but it's forceful. Yeah.
They are titanium plated in certain areas, and that if they start firing from those protected titanium bunkers, you can't move them.
It's
Yui.
tectonic plates grinding up against each other, and
Just
Yui
earthquakes.
Yui is in the middle. It's and that's
You really feel bad for Yui.
Oh
here.
yeah. But it's also something where this is the strength and weakness of their dynamic, I feel like. Because the fact that they're all kind of in their sort of regressed or stagnant states here, that goes to show that, it's like this because the way that they've been growing is by growing together, right? And now they're not doing that. They're not doing things together, and as such, then when it goes back into that state of trying to be together, when things aren't simpatico,
Yes.
then it gets bad.
I'm with you, but growing together is, I would say, where not much of the growth actually happened. The growth happened after the experiences they shared together, but the actual growing would come usually in how they would reflect back on the experience.
Right. They helped each other grow, but they did not actually
grow that much
together in parallel, etc.
And that is why they are talking about the difference between knowing and understanding each other. And that is that's why they are unable to communicate right here. They all still don't really fully understand each other. In my opinion, I think that there's ways in which some of them understand another, but it's not necessarily reciprocated.
Sure.
But I wouldn't presume to know who has the most understanding of each other. I can just tell when communication breakdowns like this happen, where passive-aggressive barbs are thrown out from both sides, and Yui's just watching them getting shot across there. She doesn't necessarily understand why they won't just, talk about it and stuff.
Right.
Because the problems that they're kind of almost internally addressing but not wanting to be vulnerable with are things that she can't really fully know everything about. It's kind of like the junior high girl, for instance.
Yes. It's the partial understanding, right? That causes the issues, I feel like. Because to take into an extreme level that isn't really helpful, but if they were strangers, then this wouldn't be a problem, right? Because they'd just be like, oh, they're doing whatever they're doing, I guess that's who they are, right? Whatever. But in this situation, because say Yukino understands a lot of why Hachiman does what he does, she's like, this really bugs me, this really frustrates me, and I'm gonna push on this, right?
But she's saying you won't change, and he's like, no. And she had that thing of where she said, and she had that hesitation where she wants to then basically go and drop her paladin smite hammer, but she's like, but basically it has that you're important to me and yet I can't stand you. So I love that it does ultimately come down to they know each other, but they don't understand each other.
Right.
And that's where Yukino's thing of you're not addressing the root problem is, I would say, the most important bit here of this whole episode is that Hachiman's style is not about addressing the root problem.
Nope.
That's really painful. That's really
been his
scary.
whole lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Thus, you can get a lot of results in the immediate sense.
Yep.
By just addressing the immediate symptom that comes out
Right.
and killing it. I mean, he's really good at killing symptoms.
Sure.
And they are things that aren't just necessarily symptoms, but they're tied to other issues.
Yeah, it does good, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's the using the inappropriate tool. You know, it's the when all you've got is a hammer, all life's problems start to look like nails. You know.
Right. I loved when the new girl gets brought in here. Who's the kohai to them, or I believe she's just a first year in general. But she's getting put into this position.
Yeah.
She has all the personality things that kind of Hachiman hates about, girls specifically, where it's the like, oh, look, she just, everyone loves her, and she's just playing with them all. And I'm like, wow, you're really quick to jump on this angle of things, Hachiman. Like most people...
Yeah,
most people aren't thinking that much about these kinds of things. It's really fun to see him have a moment where he could be right, and yet it doesn't really matter at all because the situation that he's in right here, and he jumped so quickly to do. I'll do the speech and I'll kill it. It'll be quick. It'll be easy. And everyone else is looking at him like,
dude.
You didn't even explore this that much.
Showing
you don't care really at all about her. You're just like, no, I'm gonna go straight to this thing.
This is a way that I can turn the pain that I've experienced into something that empowers me, that makes me feel like I'm doing stuff that's well, yeah, it makes me feel powerful, right? Like this is a boon, not a curse, you know.
And isn't it interesting that this is a situation where he'd be putting himself out in front of the entire school, essentially, in a place of power where they all have to listen to him?
Sure.
And I want to go out on a limb here and say that this might even be something that's in his like in his edgy dreams, where he's I get to tell everyone off. And no one's going to bat an eye about it because they know the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm helping this girl. Hachiman.
These people can't, and then the masses, right? It's a vengeance fantasy.
Yeah, it is a vengeance fantasy. It doesn't have to be that,
but it
could be.
It has a lot of similarities to a vengeance fantasy.
Right.
Like not against specific people, but society and all that.
Right. So have you ever had one of those moments, right, where you're in a situation where you feel wronged by someone or a group of people or what have you, and then 2 days later you think of the comeback? And you're like, that would have been the perfect thing to say. This.
Yeah.
That's the tamest, basically, representation of the revenge fantasy thing we're talking about here. But Hachiman's so quick to jump onto this. I love the fact that Yui just kind of looks at him just shocked. Like, there's no real, like, pain in her look there. She just kind of, like...
Yeah.
Just kind of raised eyebrows, like...
Like she's genuinely surprised. Like the idea, because after there's awkwardness because of what previously happened, right? And then and after the surprise, then the sadness and everything and the pain comes in, because this is right after it was just she told Hachiman specifically, hey, what you say hurts other people. Would it kill you to consider what other people, other people's feelings? And right after, when they're in the middle of having all this drama about that, someone comes in and he's like, I'll do the exact same thing. It's like...
Yeah, so he's not thinking about it.
Nope.
Or he's actively avoiding it.
Right.
Either way, it basically communicates to them that it's a bit... So this is the thing. Regardless of what he intends here... And this is the part that's rather interesting, and I really like to make this distinction a lot here. When a character or a person, just in general, in these kinds of situations, does something that causes other people to react in a really negative way, the point of it is that they reacted in that specific way. You can tell then how they relate to his choice by their reactions.
Okay.
But it says nothing about what he actually intends in this instance here. Now, that is the whole point of communication, is that there is a translation that needs to happen between what you intend, what you think, you know, and kind of come to you think and feel, you come to the reason by which you will then utter words that then denote what you desire or what have you, and then other people react on that and then go, wait, you're not meaning this, are you?
Right.
But because Hachiman's not really giving them help with translating things, they're very they're very lost in that there seems to be only one thing that he's really communicating here.
Well, and they've given him feedback, they've given him communication, right, of how this hurts them.
Well, no. I think they've told him that it hurts. I think that's a very big distinction there.
Okay.
Because they haven't necessarily told him how much he means to them.
I would say so I would disagree on that. Or with regards to Yui, I would disagree. With regards to Yukino, sure.
Sure.
But the thing is that because Hachiman still decides to continue to do this, what it basically communicates to them then is, cool, the fact that this hurts us doesn't matter. So you must not care about us much.
And that's the thing. That's the thing with communication. Regardless of what each party is intending to communicate, what is being received by each party is not necessarily what the other person is trying to communicate. That's why I'm saying that they haven't told him in certain terms, basically, that they care about him so much, that's why this thing is hurting him. Or that's why this stuff hurts them.
Okay.
In that respect, Hachiman might be so closed off because of his own pain and stuff that he's literally not able to tell that they care about him that much.
Well,
and that's a really good big thing to keep in mind potentially here.
So yes, and at the same time, I think it's more just that he knows and he's avoiding it because he can't reconcile that within himself. He refuses to believe it. Right? That's
really strong though.
No, yeah, but like he mentioned in the first season, the whole thing of it's not that I'm thick-headed, it's that I'm thin-headed, right?
Yes.
It's the I am getting what you're saying, even so much so that when I know that you're about to say it, I will specifically keep you from saying it and say, don't say that.
Yeah, because he's extremely observant.
Right.
And yet his biases in specific ways cause him to hyper-focus. I very much know what this is like when you specifically write the narrative before you get the info. So then when the info comes in, you selectively attach it to the narrative that you've predetermined.
Right. Even saying, don't give me more info. I don't want the facts. I have my own delusion. I want to continue in that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the introduction of his previous crush from junior high getting reintroduced to the story so much, because the fact that, let's go through the Hiratsuka.
Let's go through the Hiratsuka
conversation
stuff as well.
Because, very similar kind of situation to the other conversations when they're out in the hallway, but in the classroom, she does kind of do that mediator, bit.
She mentions everyone, whereas the debate was whose idea was better, kind of more so between Yukino and Hachiman.
Yeah. Right. She basically is telling everyone in the room, hey,
work together.
These work together. These are the strengths of the people here. But it's something where when I evaluate which strength I determine to be best, because this is a conflict of ideals here.
Yep.
I actually find them all to be fairly equal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there you go. So, the people that are being really stubborn and saying my way or the highway,
bend a little,
right?
Yeah.
And then she goes out into the hallway with him, and there's the whole bit of what was the line? Prone to favoritism.
She calls him a nice guy, and there's no shortage of people you've helped. Why would you say that? And she says, I may not look it, but I'm rather prone to favoritism. And this, I think, is just a brilliant bit of dialogue here, because she's basically saying, hey, that thing back there where I kind of played mediator, you saw that. That's what I was doing. But really, you've helped so many people with this stuff there. Your methods are really extreme. But I do end up finding you a little bit of a favorite because of how many people you've helped.
Right.
In fact, it's probably rather interesting to think about, but there's a possibility that Yukino needed Hachiman to join the group so that she would start being able to help people.
Sure. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Because we don't know how long Yukino was really in the service club alone, or how many people she's actually helped throughout this whole thing.
Yep.
But we'll see.
One of the other things I want to point out is that the choice of words that she has of like, oh, you're a good boy, things, or a nice kid or whatever the specific phrase was, you've helped so many people. She has a good head on her shoulders. She knows that Hachiman hates that concept, right? That he is a self-proclaimed, outcast, right?
Yep.
That everyone hates, right?
Right.
So she's basically pouring like scalding hot water on him of compliments, right? And they're sincere compliments, because there are times when people do that and they don't mean them, and it's and that's a whole other kind of thing, right?
And that's really gross. But Hiratsuka Sensei, she believes all of it.
She believes all of it, and she's telling it to him in the way that she knows will cause him the most discomfort,
to make him like change and kind of twist,
put pressure on
squirm
him,
a bit,
right? Because punches can only be so effective,
Right. She's adjusted her strategy for him quite a bit.
Yep.
And this method, where she kind of comes in to have a little one-on-one talk with him afterwards, I think in some ways puts them on a really even playing field in his mind. And thus he's able to receive a lot of what she's saying.
Hopefully.
Yeah, the way she's like, my policy is to praise students to help them grow. And he kind of gives this, and you call yourself a teacher. Right. No, I'm rather prone to praise, and you call yourself a teacher. You sure don't act like it. And it's like, no. See, hold on. The subtitles are being wonky here. You sure don't act like it. And then she says, but that doesn't mean I don't scold them. And that was after she had said that she praised them to help them grow. And it's like, and if you stick to your ways, you won't be able to help somebody that you, when you most want to.
Yeah.
Right. And she doesn't say anything else after that, basically being like, I am satisfied. I did a really, really good little drop of
mic drop, like one-liner, and Hiratsuka out,
Yeah, there's a reason why they ended the scene there. That is something that Hachiman's just going to have to think about. Will he fully
or maybe
internalize it?
Not think about it?
Well, I think he doesn't have a choice with Hiratsuka Sensei. Hiratsuka Sensei has multiple times basically come to him right at the perfect time after a thing has happened, when he's in maybe reflecting mode. And she's like, ooh, bada bing, I'm here. Hey guys, did you miss me?
There's enough precision to it that it's like a nicer Haruno. Like, it's like, oh yes, you definitely were friends.
Yeah. Also, let's talk about the Haruno scene, because this scene is dripping with drama. And the way in which he sees her first and has this oh no, a snake, and then just immediate misdirect, going somewhere else.
Oh yeah,
This has been a bad day. I do not want to deal with you right now.
Yep. And I love the balance that this scene strikes between the serendipitous, just sort of chance encounters
with some comedy to it.
With comedy, but more importantly, with Machiavellian manipulation.
Well,
right?
she didn't stalk him or anything.
Oh,
this is truly a serendipitous encounter.
No, yes. But taking the structure of this scene, right? You've got him running into her. Oh, okay. And she didn't orchestrate this, but she is an opportunist, right? And then when she sees someone that recognizes Hachiman, right? That's probably the biggest coincidence that the both of those happened around the same time. But theoretically, junior high classmates, ex-junior high classmates could have maybe bumped into him a few times, in the past. That this doesn't have to be the first time, but it's just that every time it happens, he just ignores and eventually forgets about it, and goes on with his life, right? But in this situation, she's got a needle. Right? And she picks up on these things, right? And she's like, oh, okay. And then it's just like, and now let's just push it in deep and see how far it goes. At what point, how do you score?
God. I love the fact that my needle analogy for her, the idea that she is basically the one sewing these things together, it works still so well, even though my opinion of her as a character has completely changed from where it was at the beginning. But I want to just analyze this beginning bit of how she brings herself into this. She's like, tell me something. Or she's like, don't have to run away. Tell me something interesting. She demands basically something of him.
Yep.
And he gives the like just fuck off, already.
I don't want to be a part of your two-person scene,
By doing that, he just told her something. One, he's extra annoyed right now.
He's in a foul mood.
He's in a bad mood.
There must be a reason for that.
Right, and there must be a reason, which makes her even more interested. So she says, I love that super annoyed reaction, again, to follow up on that. And then this is the part that I think is showing that she likes him in the way that Hayama brought up earlier, by smothering him. She, and I don't want to bring this up as like, hey, this is emphatically what she is deciding to do and intending to do here, but the results speak for themselves, guys. And I will speak about that in results-based stuff with regards to characters.
All right.
She does the "you always deliver." That is a compliment laced in the context
with a of the reinforcement of future behavior.
Yeah. Yep. Then she does the, yes, I am going there. She stretches out and she's like, oh, I love how wonderful my boobs are. And he cannot help but notice, because she's not stupid. She knows that this will at the very least do something for him.
Get his attention. A shot off the port side bow that changes up his internal thought process.
And then what does he do after that? He tells her something interesting, because
hey, is Yukino doing all right?
Is Yukino doing all right?
And
she then basically hones in on the,
she's the same as ever.
That got him to respond.
Right.
Then that's where this is.
Also, I want to point out that when she stretches, yes, she's doing that, my boobs look so good. But it also felt to me like she was like, okay. Let me stretch a little bit before I get to work. Let me loosen up.
Let me limber up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the way they're kind of talking through each other. Have you made progress?
Didn't you go on a school trip?
Right. And this banter here is just so good. The way that she every once in a while is vulnerable, though, and shares something that's actually really helpful.
Just enough.
You're off the mark. And I love that she's saying this in a moment where he's already like a bit flustered. So maybe the way in which she's getting to him is by actually being a bit like judgy and kind of putting him down a little bit by saying, like, you're actually off the mark here. He kind of like, wait, really?
Right, because she knows that he's proud and intelligent, so he doesn't want to be told he's wrong.
Right, but also I think he is so terrified about her in some ways is because he knows how good she is.
Oh, right.
So when she goes, you're probably way off the mark, he actually like turns and looks like, wait, really? Like, on what? And I don't think it's the thing of where he's like, no, I'm never off the mark. It's the, wait, you're about to tell me how I'm off the mark. You're that type of person. So let me listen to this. And she says she hates us, but she doesn't want us to hate her in turn. That's really good info there, Hachiman. And the way he just kind of is like, oh.
Like, noted,
Yeah, I'm noting that down.
Like that wasn't a defensive stare. Most of his looks at Haruno have been very much like, my guard is up. Yeah, like,
don't you try any shit here.
You keep that needle over there, But then he's like, oh.
Okay.
Doesn't even realize it,
Yeah, and then anyway, subject switch, and she keeps weaving in here, and ends up kind of
tell me about your personal life, like
right. And he ends up kind of being like, well, there's stuff like the student council election, which is something that he doesn't care about at all.
Nope, but the fact that he mentions it, it's like,
that's where the problem probably is.
Right. It's something that's occupying my mind, right? When normally it probably wouldn't,
Yeah. I would never really put many of the other characters in this show to be kind of intentionally weaving the conversation in this way to kind of get something out of the other person. Because, again, most people don't think like that, just in general.
And if they do, they're playing checkers, not crazy 3D chess.
Here is different.
Yeah.
She's a bit more specific. And they keep doing this shot here where they'll show the top half of her face, not show the top half of her face, and have her say something that is like, true, vulnerable. There's no filter put on it to kind of manipulate the conversation in some way.
And at that point, well, one of the things that I like about this is that when she says that, Hachiman actually glances at her almost as if he's trying to see the thing that we can't see of her eyes, right? The eyes are the key, or the window to the soul, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
To basically be like, what is the actual meaning behind those two words that you just said of how lame, right?
Right.
What's going on?
And right at the moment where maybe they are in the potential thing where he can understand her a little bit more, she kind of does the, I got
and
you.
She turns and looks at my
eyes.
Yes. Yeah, you're engaged now. Okay, yeah,
And then...
Now I can get a good look at you.
Yeah. And then sidetracked. And I would have loved to see what the conversation would have been if she didn't show up, Orimoto Kaori and her friend Chika. But the fact that that was about the moment where they were ready to have maybe a real conversation at that point.
Sure.
Maybe. Mm-hmm. And that is probably the strength, I would say, of Haruno, is that she is really good at finding a way to insert the needle into the deeper aspects of the situation so she can cut through the bullshit.
She just doesn't ask for the consent of her patients before operating.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, the junior high crush is being brought into the story.
Yeah.
Since we're now in high school now, there's this, we're pseudo adults in training, you know?
Yep.
So now we're all awkward even more, but we have this weird confidence in areas that is sometimes completely misplaced. Mm-hmm. And she is not making this easy for him.
Nope.
And I don't sense any malice or malevolence or anything like that, but I can sense a total apathy of who he is necessarily as a person. Right. It's the, this will be fun. Why not? Let's.
Yeah. The way I see it basically is that, and not that this is what it consciously is for her at the beginning, right?
Well,
but that this is.
I don't think we judge her intent at all here.
Well, okay. I think there's a few instances where we can, because we know that she's apathetic towards him.
For the most part, yeah.
Is that people generally don't like discomfort. That's what Hachiman's situation is right in this whole episode, this arc and everything. He doesn't like discomfort. He avoids it. Now, sometimes people casually avoid discomfort. Sometimes they hard avoid discomfort, right? Hachiman is in the hard avoid discomfort area, right? Even though it's causing discomfort to others. She was previously in the casually avoid discomfort area. And because of that, because she was apathetic towards Hachiman, the way she dealt with him was callous, and it protected her own comfort at the cost and expense of his. Yeah, right?
But that wasn't necessarily intentional. Not his comfort levels.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's
right.
What I was
it was completely without regard for that, right?
Right.
The regard was entirely for hers, right?
Yep.
And it was successful in that regard. She was able to maintain her comfort. She has no idea what kind of effect it had on him. She didn't really care, right?
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah, she was in junior high, right? You know, can you blame her, right?
No.
Then, in this situation, when it gets brought up, because she was so focused on her own comfort, thinking that you actually caused pain to someone else, that causes pain, right? That's uncomfortable, right? So naturally, if you don't truly care about a person, then you will think that whatever you did in your interactions with that person definitely didn't cause pain, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't that, we didn't really know each other. Oh, you were basically mute, things like that, right? No disregard at all for him, right? Because he's already been sort of written out of her mind, by that point. Not that he was probably ever in there to begin with.
Yeah.
And then when it's brought up of like, who brought the whole thing of him asking her out?
Oh, that was Haruno basically saying, you got to tell me stories. And she's like what? Like about love life. Look, tell me what it was like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And she's like, well, actually, he asked me out.
Now
and
that you mention
Chika, his friend, goes, huh? Like she was like, I didn't know that.
Right. And the way she brought it up was almost like I forgot. But it was a long time ago, so who cares now, right?
I want to say that actually the way she brought it up had a bit of looking down. It was a little bit of the thing of like, no, I remember.
Which then just brings the old way of doing things back into the present, and this is something that so personal story. I'll keep this short, but first time I had a crush on a girl, like a serious crush, and I told her I liked her. She didn't like me. I was like, oh, okay,
how old were you?
I was 16. No, not like childhood crushes or things like that, but like the serious,
gotcha.
All that stuff.
Gotcha.
Hoping that it would be serious.
Right.
Didn't like.
I thought you were talking about a childhood crush.
No. So,
okay.
But
teenage years. Okay.
Right. But I did not understand how to really handle it very much because I didn't deal with that stuff until then. Hence being at 16, right? We are all fools in love, right? But the thing that bothered the shit out of me anytime I would randomly run into this person later is when they basically tried to do the I will try and be basically like placating or whatever, or being like, oh yeah, I'm so happy to see you, because I don't want it to be awkward, because that would make me feel awkward. But it's like, no. I am already past that. I don't really care about the fact that I ran into you, right?
Right.
But then they put on all this like intentional like effort to try and be like, hey, yeah, it's great to see you, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it's just like, really?
But no one ever communicates how that makes them feel.
Right. Well, and
especially when they're a teenager.
And the thing is that this was like clockwork, right? And the first time it was like, oh, yeah, hey, oh, you're wanting to reconnect? Sure. Yeah, I'm in town for a few days. Oh, you want to hang out? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll send you a message about that on Facebook or something.
Right.
Never respond, right?
Yeah.
And this happened probably 3 or 4 times. Whenever I was just in that area, because it was a small town, I would end up running into them. They'd do this. Same exact thing. And it was just like, oh my God, you are entirely doing this to try and make yourself feel better, right? Because you don't want it to be awkward, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in this situation, she's doing that with Hachiman, but even worse, she's doing it in the like nagging, putting you down kind of way.
Yeah, and that's the part that is not necessarily intentional. That's the part where she's specifically trying to make herself feel as little discomfort as possible. Because I think one of the things that was very obvious rather quickly was that the girl here, there's a non-0% chance that she actually likes him. Like let's actually like draw this out to the math here.
Okay.
There is a non-zero chance that she actually
Probably
likes
real
him.
small, but yeah.
Oh, of course. But when she asked here, I don't know, is this your girlfriend? Like that was one of the first things that she asked and brought up here.
Oh.
And then yeah, I knew that. She's way out of your league. She's covering for herself basically by making potential assumptions. And if she says anything that he disagrees with in this regard, she suddenly gets to be put into the awkward seat. So she's killing all that potential and agreeing with anything that he remotely brings up in this way, which is fake. Because he's not wanting to be discomforted himself as well.
And then
so
giving out statements to insert into, this is what you think, this is how it went, right? It was a long time ago, so who cares, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, to be fair, that is something that she is echoing him after he agrees to that. So therefore, they could both literally be lying about this whole thing here, just for the sake of everything appearing normal and we don't have to have awkwardness.
Yeah. We don't know we didn't get her internal thoughts on this. Yeah.
Yep. And that's I think the best thing about this is that this is that awkward situation where at least one of the parties, the one that we get internal looks at here, is not enjoying this at all. But there is no way he's going to effectively communicate that to her during this whole bit here. Thus, she's perpetuating the problem unintentionally or intentionally, it doesn't matter. The result is that's what's happening. Thus, when they separate and leave, it's under the worst of circumstances because it ends up being about something completely different, where the actual huge potential is that he could have, if he wanted to, it would have been painful as hell, done something that would have maybe even got Haruno on his side.
Well, and that's one of the things
they could have Uno reverse carded this, but that would have been so difficult.
Well, and that was one of the things that I was wondering if Haruno was trying to set that up to do in the first place to kind of get Hachiman more on her side, because he always has the defenses up around her, right? And whether it's the little stretch, or whatever, right? She has a vested interest in lowering his defenses, right? And I thought for a second that she was going to do that, but it almost seemed like because she was just so genuinely like almost giddy curious of like, I'm an opportunist. And I was being an opportunist when I got this whole conversation going with Hachiman in the first place on a chance encounter. But no, this is a gold mine.
Oh my God.
Oh, what am I going to do with this? Oh, Hayama? All right. Yeah. You know what? I'll introduce you. You don't want Hachiman to introduce you, which is just great that they say that like, oh, no, it's fine,
To be fair, Hachiman said that. Hachiman said, I'll pass.
No. The friend said that.
No. Wait. The friend said that? Hold on. There's no clue. It's all in the past now. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Who remembers? Your friend so hi. Do you know a guy named Hama? Yeah, you could say that for real. Chika, you could get him to introduce. I meant that she was not against the idea of Hachiman introducing Hayato.
Right. But then the friend is like, I'm pretty sure the friend said.
Yeah, the friend says, I'll pass. Yeah. I'm not
Uh-huh.
debating that anymore. I was meaning that.
Right. Okay.
I was meaning that. Kaori was wanting Hachiman to do it.
Yes. Right, which is great because then it's the thing of the, so what's something that you can do for us? Cool. Okay.
I mean, in some ways, I think that's a little bit too hard on the nose there.
It's maybe too hard of a way to phrase it, but the mechanically of what it is, since her perspective on him in the past has definitely been one of apathy, right? There's a chance that it's not right now, but it definitely has been in the past. Mm-hmm. But then it's the thing of there is something that you can do for me. I'm going to bring it up, right?
Yeah. And it's reinforced by her saying things like, thought as much, you two are like apples and oranges anyway.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
Yep. Yeah. And then Haruno's like, I'll introduce you.
Yeah, this will be funny. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad we skipped through the whole scene.
Oh, yeah. And then we just, them going away, and instantly we just see Hayama's face just
drop.
Okay.
It's like, why did you do this?
Yeah, I didn't think he'd be involved.
It sounded amusing, and he does that again. And why was he involved? I would have thought it had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she tells him about the crush.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
I'd love to see the look on Yukino's face if she ever hears about this.
Yeah. Like, Haruno, you are, wow. You steal the show whenever you're present.
Something else, yeah.
You are really something else,
Yeah.
Whether in a positive or a negative, it's a mix of both.
Yeah, and the way Hayama's like, hey, Haruno must like you. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what, are you stupid? And the way he just kind of says knowingly, like, no, she wouldn't mess with people she had no interest in. Mm-hmm. Instead, she'd just ignore them. She either smothers the one she likes or destroys the one she hates. And we get a little bit of a thing here of where...
Which one are you, Hayama?
Well, not just which one are you, Hayama, but then you realize that Hayama might be drawing a parallel between the two of you, Hachiman. And you either ignore the ones you don't care about. Mm-hmm. That tracks with Hachiman here. Yep. Uh-huh. Smother the ones you like. When have you smothered anyone?
Never, because that would mean that you would actually have to, really like someone.
But what we know of in his past, though, is that his mind, at the very least, was smothered in the idea of a lot of these connections that ended up going sour.
Okay.
So...
And he's definitely had a lot of thoughts of the destroying the ones he hates.
Right. And that is essentially who he maybe would have become if he was just more socially adept at the game there. But he also so reviles the game because of his ways he didn't end up succeeding in the social game.
Right.
Which I love so much about Hachiman, in that he's actively trying to play the game at times for the sake of making these kinds of things happen, where he kills someone's joy in playing the game, like with the whole school trip and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting interaction. I'm curious what the dynamic was between Hayama and Haruno beyond just like because she went to the school a few times. The idea that she knows him totally makes sense, especially since they're both social butterflies and whatnot.
Yeah, well, they at least saw each other at one point.
Right, they definitely saw each other. Yeah.
Well, right, but wasn't there some stuff in season 1 where they actually were in the same scene, like just for a little bit? But it wasn't much at all.
No, yeah. It was with the whole stuff with the council meeting festival, all that whatnot. Yeah. Right, but there's a dynamic that is established off screen that we can at least know of, even if we don't know what it entailed as a result of this scene.
I can't wait to see if there's something really juicy there.
Yeah, it makes me really curious, because almost anything that involves Haruno by its nature has to be juicy, otherwise she wouldn't be there.
That's true.
But yeah.
But okay, this episode though, jam-packed despite nothing happening.
Right.
Oh my god. And then we have a little bit of a closing kind of bit for the episode to set up kind of the future conflict, which is that, he's going to be here, he's going to listen in and respond, but Yukino is moving forward with her way of doing things here, and is very frustrated that he does not intend to change, and yet calls him out on the "weren't you the one who called such superficiality meaningless?" He does not respond to that.
Yep. And he just sort of leaves. And poor Yui, she can't get a W. Like, the fact that she's there waiting for him to be like, hey, are you going to go to the club? And he's like, sure. You know, like it was a very, like, I don't particularly care, but I'll do it, you know?
I think he said, I'm not planning on it. No, I'm not planning on it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then she kind of goes, well, we decided to discuss things at the other
Right, she's trying to specifically mend the connection and basically saying, hey, we do want you there. And then he ends up, you know, deciding to go along, and she's all excited. But the fact that she's basically trying to do all this when he is in one of the worst moods probably he's been in the show. Right,
yeah,
like
so far,
because there's the drama and everything within the club itself, but then he literally just had, because all the drama in the club and everything and the problems with his interactions with Yui and Yukino stems from the pain that was caused to him as a result of this girl from junior high. Right, it's all that just sort of getting magnified and his responses to that and the way he changed as a result of it, just kind of playing out all over again in situations where it doesn't need to go that way because he's hurt, right? Hurting people hurt people. But now in this situation, after he just had a you know, nat 1 on whatever die you want to call it, right? I just ran into her again, and because Haruno was there, she specifically like pressed the issue and things like that. Wonderful. That was just great. Then coming off of that, then Yui's like, hey, thinking of coming to the club today? You know, like trying to mend things when the thing that was always the problem just got dialed up even further. Awesome. And yet, because it got brought up, that means that hopefully, it will be too big of a problem for Hachiman to continue to deflect and avoid. Eventually, it will get dealt with in some way, shape, or form. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah,
and
but
we can get a good resolution.
Yeah, but that's not the immediate future. The immediate future is that the
Pain.
consequences start rolling in, and then it gets painful.
Yeah, and will it be resolved before it's too late?
Yeah, if anything, the part that's really hopeful for Hachiman is actually the fact that there's some people that really care about him, and he does actually care about them in some way, and that's something that means that as long as that good part of him just lives, even if it's confused and wrapped under a whole like blankets of pain and stuff like that, it doesn't seem like it's dying. It just seems like, if anything, it's just being actively suppressed.
Yeah.
And thus it makes it even more painful for the people that understand that he does care about them to see him like this. So, therefore, the show drama, it gets juicy. So, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general. Also, be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. Info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.